A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the agenda. My name is Tevon Jabela, your host. Tonight we are joined by Dr. Panduleni Itula. He is president of the Independent Patriots for Change. He is, of course, an active participant in this election year, and we will be engaging him on his ideas for the country. And yes, that will be that. Doc, it's always a pleasure talking to you. It's the first time I'm meeting you this year.
Oh, right.
I don't think we've met this year, but thank you for ascending to my request for you to come on. So perhaps really to start this conversation, we have been following your movement in the country. Not physically, but we, social media and everything. You are touring the country, you're speaking to communities, you are sharing with them your message. What is the message that you are giving to the Namibian people on those tours?
Thank you very much, and good evening or good afternoon to your viewers, and thank you very much for tuning in. This is not the first time that I've gone around the country. I've been going around the country since 2013, when I actually came into Namibia. Of course, this time around, it has got a different purpose, and the message is simple: change. Change, but I need to be able to understand the people as to what is their difficulties, what is it that they are finding difficult in an independent Namibia. And throughout where I've gone, I've heard and listened. It was a listening exercise to listen to the people in order for me and the party to pick up the features of the socioeconomic pains that the people are undergoing in the country, in order for us to construct a manifesto that really speaks to the voice of the people, to be able to be serving their interests and their needs, rather than having a top-down approach. We are going to be having a bottom-up approach, so that when I'm going to a village, for example, like Kainachas, I'm speaking to the people of Kainachas, I'm touching their hands, I'm seeing their faces. When I'm going to Dongerbos in Tasmania, in Talasmanes, for example, I'm speaking to the Ovakuruha, the San people there. And when they are telling me that, Dr. Itula, thank you very much for visiting us, but we have to tighten our belt. We are going to sleep without food. That is the pain that the people are experiencing. Now, one cannot construct any policies without having a target of the effects that policies will have on the ordinary person's lives. And that is therefore very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. What are you picking up from the ground? The mood, the recurring themes of sort of the challenges that people are facing. What are you picking up?
The nature of my travels is not one where I've got 3, 4, 5 cars going around, we were around the people. I'm not having an on-trench of a lot of people. We travel only 4 of them. And when we go around, we would normally have got somebody having told the community that we are coming. And sometimes we go to people's houses, sit with them in their houses. And when I was in Betania, I met an old lady. She's 94 years old. Yeah. She's got 5 daughters and they've got 9 small children. And she's the only one who has got a means of income through the pension. Now, hospitals have to be paid, schools have to be paid, food has to be bought, and all the other amenities that these people need. And they are coming out of that. That is the pain. And when I was in Betania as well, which is about 100 kilos away, 130 kilos away from Keetmanshoop, I encountered young people sitting with their heads in their hands, just down there, having nothing whatsoever to do. These are men who have got energy to be able to be given a job and to do something. And when you think about Betania, in the good olden days of the 1930s, that was fertile land because we've got an aquifer down there, and that hasn't been utilized for many years. And when I came into Kainachas as well, same as in Gibeon and Berseba, Tses, all those places have got young people that have got no job. Some of them have got qualifications, and there is nothing they can do. I went through Maltahiet, Koachana, Stambrit, Gochas, Aranos, same story. And I went through Leonardville, in Chaka, in Corridor 1 to 21, in Vergenoeg, St. Helene, and I went down all the way to Gams, and I also went to Oshinene, and all those villages around there, Katakamurungu and Uchiwaneho, and then Oshiwa or Epukiro, etc. So what is common in these areas is one, hunger, poverty, unemployment, lack of infrastructure, and lack of medicine in clinics as well. When I was in Corridor 21, there was an outbreak of scurvy. And I managed to communicate with somebody in the Ministry of Health. They sent somebody down there, and they were able to detect at least 8 kids that has been put out of school because of scurvy. They handled it pretty quickly as well. When I was in Yodomenye in the Okakarara constituency, Okamatapati was affected by a weird, mysterious sort of condition that caused a lot of children not to walk properly and a lot of children rolling on the floors, etc. And I was able to actually say the potential risk is ABC, and that is now being sorted out as well. So the cry which is prominent is hunger and unemployment and thirst as well, especially for those who have got cattle. Now, you can never take away hunger unless you provide meaningful, reasonably paid jobs for our young people to look after their communities. You will not be able to finish or to get rid of the poverty and the hunger by having this handout as if you are throwing things to chicken or goats or something like that. You need to have a strategy, a policy that will be able to create real jobs for our people.
Absolutely. But where are these things coming from, Doc? I'm asking this because when you're talking about some of the villages in the south, Karas region, for example, for me, one of the richest regions in our country, it has the sea there by Ludrets, it has diamonds there by Oranyamond, and all these new things that are being talked about, the oil, the green hydrogen, they seem to be emerging out of some of those regions. But somehow the irony is that you have people in those very regions who are starving and have no jobs. Nothing economically is really happening in their lives.
What we are seeing is symptoms of mismanagement and poor planning, complete poor planning. Take the Nectar Dam that is located not very far from Keetmanshoop. It was constructed in 2013 and finished in 2018. In 2019, it was full to capacity. When we visited it at the end of February, March, it had 84% capacity of water in it. That water is evaporating. Nobody is utilizing it. Yeah. It's not a question of a region with the riches. It's a question of equitable distribution of those riches to the people that needs them. And as a consequence, that can only amount to the lack of government to properly plan and to be able to distribute the wealth of this nation. One cannot look at one region in a whole country of 3 million and say, simply because you are in a region that has got all the riches, you must be the richest. Otherwise, then you are not distributing equally the resources of this nation. The resources of this nation should be centrally organized and properly planned to benefit every single citizen in this country, irrespective whether you are in Aroab or irrespective whether you are in Etanga in the northwest of Kunene or whether you are in Windhoek indeed. It must be able to accrue from that revenue that will be able to be put into creating jobs for our people. It is the tax regimes that we have got and the people who are paying tax that we are not controlling. So if we were to be able to derive revenue from all these resources and then put that revenue into the management of our social services, including employment creation, then we'll be able to get on with it. The government could have taken a lot of money from the revenue derived from all these activities that is planned and having been in operation for well over 100 years, such as the diamonds, and then put aside an amount of money like 2 billion and say, look, this is our risky investment into the youth initiatives and youth trading, and open up the doors for young people to be given opportunities and entrepreneurs to invest and grow this economy. But we are not doing that. There is nothing for the young people here.
Yeah. So, Doc, this time around, come November, you'll be running for president for the second time. You did in 2019, got what you got. Now it's 2024, you are in the race again. What is it that, what are some of the lessons that you would say you've learned from 2019? It was your debut participation in that space. Do you think that there are some valuable lessons that you are bringing into your campaign this time around to now really cross over the line?
One thing that needs to be done is this, that people need to understand in Namibia, and everybody need to believe in it, that until such time that the ECN confirms that they never rigged the elections of 2019, that's the only time that they will come to the conclusion that the elections of 2019 was not won by the independent presidential candidate. I'm absolutely convinced. I've discussed it with Mr. Muyoro, and I have given it to him to say that come and dispute it. Yeah. The election that was rigged in 2019 is an example of what we need to do to ensure nothing of that nature can actually take place. The fact that we got rid of the electronic voting machines gives us a better opportunity to be able to guard how these elections are going to be conducted and the results as well. Mm. There is a difference between me in 2019 and also me now. One, in 2019, I had 3 weeks in which to prepare and to campaign for these elections. And I was single-handedly running the campaign myself and having people supporting that idea of an independent presidential candidate, especially, thankfully, the youth as well. Mm-hmm. That time, I had no infrastructure. I had only 3 weeks, and I had to run around the whole country with very little resources as well. But when I announced the election campaign on the 21st of March 2022, everybody was saying, it's too early. But IPC, the party that I'm leading and collectively leading with our leaders as well, is the only political party ever formed in Namibia ready to participate in elections and demonstrated sure. So according to our calendar and the strategy we implemented from the 21st of March onwards, we are following a strategy. We are not just going around as if it's, as they say, headless chicken or anything like that. We are following a strategy, and we are following a winning strategy that we are convinced will deliver the results. When I said yesterday, SWAPO will only get 29% of the votes, that's what they got in 2019, until such time that the ECN confronts me and say, we never rigged these elections. And I've challenged them several times. They did not. So until such time that they do that, the truth is we won those elections. Now I'm urging all those people who voted in 2019, the manner in which they voted, the convictions they had, the motivation they had, and the commitment they had to voting for change, to once again to realize that change starts with them and they should maintain that and to recruit more people. We are absolutely convinced that we will be winning the elections and the presidential elections as well in 27th of November 2024.
Yeah. Where does that conviction come from, Doc? What is it that, is it from speaking to people? Where does the conviction that you win this election come from?
One thing you need to understand is this, that when in the early years of the 70s, the struggle for the liberation struggle was launched in the 60s, etc. And when the resistance of the Ovahero people and the Nama people came about, there was a need for Namibians to govern themselves. And when we got independence, we believed that, wow, this is going to be great. We now have got our own governors and our own leaders. Namibia will be better. We were not to be the same again. And surprise, surprise, these people came and looked after their bellies, their families, and not after the nation. If you can't look after your people, you are not worthy of leading this nation at all. When you go around this country and see the pains in the eyes of the people, the hunger the children go to bed with, the children getting sick because of drinking dirty water, etc. What kind of heart would you have not to be able to say, what I'm doing is not doing it for myself. Yeah. I'm doing it for the Namibian people. And I'm urging all the Namibian people to come and join the IPC and vote for the IPC to make sure that there's a meaningful change in the lives of Namibians and in the way that our country is governed and our relationship with the international communities, both in SADC and the AU and the globe itself as well. So the convictions comes from that very convictions of the 70s, which said that our people shall not be oppressed, whether from foreign or internal elements or entities at all. So that conviction is not going to be swayed by anybody else saying, Dr. Itula, slow down or do anything else. Until such time that there is any change in Namibia, I will not put my hands together and say, deal with it. No, I'll continue leading the IPC and hopefully with the mandate of the people of Namibia, lead them into a different world, a world that they will never want to go away from at all. What we've had here is absolute misery. Absolute misery. If you've traveled this country, you would have seen that misery. It's good to be able to be with the people and to understand their pain, as opposed to people sitting in their air-conditioned offices and then dishing out directives, do this in this place, do this in this place. How can you seek to govern a people that you've never visited, that you never sit with them, that you never touch to feel their pain? So what I'm asking the Namibian people is to vote for the change that will be able to bring about a better life for them and their children, and future generations will thank us for that.
Yeah. The one window that people can use in Namibia to measure the prospects of IPC's leadership in the future, if you were to take over the country, is what the party is doing in the local authorities where you are active participants. Windhoek, of course, you're not the majority, but it is one of the local authorities where you have a significant number of councillors. Erongo region is where you really have a good number of those, including constituency councillors. Do you think that you can be judged through that right now? Or do you think, for example, that if you had an absolute majority in those town councils, that would be a more fair way to judge your deliverance?
People need to understand the governance of the Republic of Namibia. The ultimate power rests with central government. The decision-making processes comes from there. The laws comes from there. Those laws are binding. In terms of Article 18, local authority councillors can only operate within the relevant statutory provisions. They cannot go outside that at all. They cannot make decisions that are ultra-virus the Act itself. And therefore, whatever programs those local authorities want to put in operation, it will be subject to how much money do they have. At the moment, most of the local authorities have got a lot of people who are not employed, unable to pay their rates in terms of water and electricity. And therefore, if there is no money coming from the local people in that local authority, there is no revenue for the local authority to service any needs of the population. Yeah. And if there is no revenue, they have to go to central government. And at the same time, those local authorities, we didn't have any majorities in those local authorities. We were hoping, like in Windhoek, that the majority of the other political parties will stand with us. And surprise, and probably not so much surprising, they stood with the very entity that they were fighting against. We cannot compromise principles like that. All the political parties and our associations in the city of Windhoek betrayed the will of the people that said, we are not voting for SWAPO anymore, we'll vote the alternatives. And yet that alternative turned against the IPC. We as in the minority had nothing to do other than to step aside as they voted us out. So it's democracy. In the other local authorities, our councillors have tried very hard, especially Walvis Bay. But when you've got sabotage within the local authorities, councillors as politicians makes decisions. Yeah. The executions of those decisions lies in the employees of the council. Those employees of the council, we found them there. Many of them are actually functionaries within the branches of the SWAPO party in Walvis Bay and Swakopmund. So if the execution is not carried out, you can't blame the councillors for taking a decision to be implemented. And you get a governor going to hand over plots that the local authority, for example, in Farm 37, reserved for people. He goes and, because it's election year, goes and hand them over. And yet they have been here for 30 whatever years, had nothing to do with that at all. They didn't hand properties. But when you go to Swakopmund, yes, got a fire station next to the people to prevent any burning of the combustions there. We've got roads and electricities and water supplied to the people. What we need is our absolute power to be able to have a free will of delivering services to the people. But as long as we are hamstrung with how much we can deliver to the people. Yeah. As long as we've got executives that are actually functionaries of the ruling party, we will never be seen to do anything at all, because they will not allow that. So this exercise is not about a reference to the past 4 years. This exercise is a reference to 34 years of central government. It's not measuring the two things. Local government and central government will be able to actually alter the manner in which local government is run to ensure that people are accountable directly to the electorate and not to a political party.
Mm. One of the things, Doc, is we saw what happened in South Africa this past week. The ruling party there couldn't secure an absolute majority. There are conversations around creating a coalition government. And there's a lot of fear in Namibia that, by the common man, of course, like myself, that we might find ourselves in a similar situation where no one has an absolute majority. And because what we have seen from 2020 when these coalitions were formed in our own local authorities, just like you mentioned, the situation in the city of Windhoek where the tides turned. Do you think that it is therefore important, learning from these coalitions that we have in local authorities, IPC and other parties, that it's absolutely important that we have an absolute winner instead of having a government of national unity and that type of arrangement?
First of all, Namibians need to make absolutely sure that they've got a clear winner by supporting the IPC so that we are not bogged down to negotiating coalitions. We also need to understand that there's a clear difference between the situation in South Africa in terms of governance and that of Namibia. They've got a parliamentary system where the parliament itself elects the president. We have got a semi-presidential system. Our people elects the president completely independent of any other things. And the president, therefore, as the head of the executive, has got absolute powers within the constitution to execute the decisions of parliament. There are 2 points where a situation may arise that a political party does not get an absolute majority of 48 seats or 49 seats in our parliament of 96, for example. Under those circumstances where the party with a majority of votes gets, say, for example, 47, whenever they wish to pass a law, they will need to negotiate with somebody to support that bill there. And that is a floor coalition. In a floor coalition, you will basically go into an agreement and say that next time you bring your bill, we'll support you on that bill. That is when you've got just a small amount of seats to bring you into the 50. If you get a situation where you've got, for example, the party that the nominal party of the president that fielded the president that won the elections get 35 seats in parliament, then there is a problem. The problem will then mean that those political parties, because we don't have coalitions before the elections, it can only be after the elections according to our laws as well. If you've got 35 seats there and you are the party that has got the president as well, you will have to do a portfolio trading. And that portfolio trading is going to be very tough negotiations, because a political party may say, okay, fine, I can give you 10 of my seats or 20 of my seats in order for you to have a majority in parliament, provided you give me a position in cabinet. Now, IPC has already said that we are not going to be proposing partisan cabinets. We are going to have a cabinet consisting of meritocratic Namibians that are able to execute the decisions of parliament. So if a political party come and say, you will need to give me a position in cabinet in order for me to support you in legislation, then the question is, which position do you give? Do you give foreign, and then they will mess up your foreign policies? Do you give economics? They mess up your economy. Do you give finance? They mess up your finance so that you'll be seen very bad in the eyes of the population. Or do you give them home office and they register everybody else who's foreign to come and support themselves? Or what do you give them? Do you give them even defense? And then before you know it, they are conducting a coup against you. So the Namibians need to understand that this is a watershed. This is a crossroads where if you really want change, to come about, is to make sure that the party that's more likely than not to win these elections will be given maximum support. As I said in Wolf's Bay, I'm not asking people to leave their political parties. All I want them to go is to go into that booth and give all their vote for change. That change can only come through the vehicle of one political party and one leader, that is Dr. Panduleni Itula and the IPC, if you want change. That means that you will give us an opportunity not to compromise our principles, not to compromise your needs either, because we'll be acting according to the needs of the people. But if you put us in a situation where we have to compromise, like in the city of Windhoek, where we have to actually make decisions subject to the vote of the other people, that is going to be very difficult for us to effect your needs as a nation. So what we need is for the Namibians to say, what we did in 1990, we'll do it upside down and support the IPC completely, to give them a majority and say, there you are, we'll give you 5 years. And I can tell you that, give us 5 years, we'll be able to construct 280,000 houses within 4 years. We've worked it out. We've worked it out. We know what we are going to do. We'll tell the Namibian people on the 2nd of August what we are going to do. In so doing, we are also providing jobs. In so doing, we are also starting the economy growing as well, because those jobs will allow people to be given salaries. They will be able to go to the markets. The consumer component of our GDP will go up. We'll try and look at the tax regime. We'll try and reduce the tax regime to encourage foreign direct investment that will create jobs as well. We are already talking about reducing our ministries from 23 up to 13. And we worked out that we are going to save 11.8 billion. We are going to invest that money into youth projects. We are going to invest that money into agriculture to make sure that we are self-sufficient in terms of food. And then we'll then have to look at what? Exports, so that we can actually import less of our agriculture and export more, so that we can actually accrue more revenue from our exports. So making a decision which political party to choose is not the party you belong to. You are making a decision to change this country and to change the prospects of the economy, socio-economic growth in this country.
Wonderful. We go for a quick break and then return with Dr. Panduleni Itula.
The Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, in collaboration with the Namibia Tourism Board and the Ondonga Traditional Authority, will be hosting the Itotha Carnival at the Kangonde Salt Pan in the Oshikoto region from 27 June to 1st July 2024. Expect a fun-filled weekend including traditional dishes, cookout competitions, totem parades, traditional games, horse riding, skydiving and quad biking. Accommodation facilities will be available at cost. The Itotha Carnival, celebrating our ancient heritage.
The conversation with Dr. Itula continues on the agenda. Now, Doc, you're operating in a very toxic political environment, I suppose. It comes with the territory. A lot has been said, a lot is being thrown at you. He has stayed in the UK, he is married to a white woman, he's this, he's that. How are you handling, how are you actually shaking off all these things to put yourself in a position where we can all trust you? Because people are saying, as a matter of fact, maybe you can also reflect on your meeting with the ambassadors of European countries recently. It has even cemented that argument that you are pro-white, you are pro-Europe, you are there are strings being pulled on you by European countries and stuff like that. How do you respond to this?
Let's make it absolutely clear that when I stood up as an independent presidential candidate, nobody threw any of that nature to me at all. I'm not going to be facing a nation which is under these circumstances and engage myself in the propagandist agenda of distracting me to what I'm doing. All these things are being thrown at Itula because of the successes that he's scoring in the campaigns. Nothing else. I will not, and I have not, the first person to speak to white people. When we obtained this independence, it was based on the 5 conduct groups: France, Germany, the United Kingdom under David Owen, and us in the United States of America, Spears in Canada. These were white people negotiating with our leaders then. His Excellency Dr. Sam Shafishuna Nujoma, our late president, and all our late leaders as well. They negotiated with those white people. And that was a negotiated settlement. Of course, we should never forget the enormous contributions and sacrifices of our armed struggle and those people who suffered in prisons and those generations of citizens who assisted the freedom fighters in bringing about the negotiated settlement, pushed, of course, by the armed struggle. Mzee Kaukungwa said that unless we are fighting the Boers with arms, Namibia will never be free at all. We need to appreciate all of that. But again, in terms of the Geneva Conventions, yes, we are not in Geneva. Diplomats are sent, effectively call them spies, but representatives of those countries. Those diplomats, we've got diplomats in Brazil, we've got diplomats that are dedicated there on the Foreign Office and looking after our people there and the interests of the Republic of Namibia as well. They are in this country as ambassadors of the EU that are actually traveling around this country up and down, communicating with our governors, communicating with our teachers, building schools, etc. They are whites. It's only wrong when Itula sits with them on lunch and discuss issues of mutual interest. And I'm not the first one to do so. We seem to be remembering that in 2021, they met Honorable Venani, they met Honorable Swarboy, that is the American ambassadors and the German ambassadors. In fact, this year alone, Honorable Venani was met by the German ambassador as well. On this occasion, without my knowledge, they decided that they are going to come together and get to know Itula. I'm in the political arena as leader, legitimate leader of a registered political party. We see nothing wrong communicate with anybody else. In fact, if anything, our constitution, Article 21 of the Namibian Constitution, provides for freedom of association. That means that there isn't anything limiting me from meeting anybody whatsoever, and there shouldn't be any suspicions who I am meeting. You've got freedom to associate. No. And it would be wrong for a Namibian government to actually say we shouldn't speak to people. We are not in a police state in this country. We are in a constitutional democracy which gives us rights to be able to actually interact and freedom to marry who we want to marry. No. There isn't any constitutional provisions to say that you shouldn't marry X and Y and Z. Otherwise, anybody else that has married someone else, should be questioned. We had a wonderful clergy in this country who helped the liberation struggle. He actually used to bring in money for the liberation struggle. Late Bishop Kauluma. He was married to an American, but he was the head of the Anglican Church in this country. And there are a lot of people that are members of the Anglican Church. And at the same time, God Save Our Queen, our King is a song being sung in the Anglican Church. Nothing to do with the religious convictions of our people at all, but that is an allegiance to the Church of England. We've got the Church of England in Namibia here. Let's get rid of the Church of England out of Namibia if we really say that we shouldn't communicate or have any associations whatsoever. When I was in the United Kingdom, I was campaigning for the independence of Namibia with anti-apartheid movement. Trevor Huddleston is a British. All this, James Corbyn, Peter Heathfield, Arthur Scargill, they are white British. If you ask Ben Ulenga when he came to visit in 1986 in the UK, we arranged for him to get in touch with the miners. White people in those countries, in solidarity with the people of Namibia, supported us. We need to go away from the apartheid mentality that we see the color of the skin rather than the person himself. When we were sitting with the ambassadors, and it was the ambassador of Finland, Namibia had a long relationship with Finland. We had the ambassador of Portugal there. We've got Portuguese company digging our oil in the sea. We've got the ambassador of Spain there. We've got a lot of Spanish vessels that are fishing in our seas under whose agreement. We were with the ambassador of France. We've got a lot of relationship. Rio Tinto Zinc used to be shipping all our uranium through France to the United Kingdom in the 80s, etc. We had the ambassador of Germany. Namibia had a big, long history with Germany as well. Now, there isn't any law in Namibia, and Namibians need to understand that your freedom of association should not be construed as being friendly with anybody else. As a national leader, I have an ability and a right to communicate with anybody else. I met with Madam Sophia Shaningwa at the airport. I'm human. I communicated with her. We are human. That's what we are. Politics should not be able to change us how we interact with people. And I don't think that I should be judged by the blue suits I'm wearing as to how I will deliver. The notion that IPC and Itula, it must be a dictator that can control 330,000 people who are our members to follow one line simply because Itula has done that. How many people didn't study in the United Kingdom? Even our current president now, His Excellency Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, studied in the United States of America. He was married to a Zimbabwean citizen. Did it make any change at all? Our late president was also married to an American citizen. All our leaders studied either in the United States of America or Canada, like, for example, Hidipo Amtenya, or the Soviet Union, like Nkarikutuke Chiriange. And our current Minister of Home Affairs, I found him in the UK studying a PhD. All our judges, Judge President studied in the University of Warwick. So we didn't have an academic institution here. The United Nations set up the United Nations Institute for Namibia in Zambia, which was led by our previous late president as well. So we need to understand this propagandist will not get anywhere, and I will not be distracted. I'll continue hammering the Namibian message of change, whether they like it or not, but they will not sway me. That's why I never reacted. I never reacted because it's besides the point.
So you can confidently tell our viewers, Doctor, that an Itula administration, because what comes with those aspersions that are being cast on your association with white people or foreign governments is this idea that your administration will not be able to shake the economic fundamentals, that somehow the land will remain predominantly in the white hands, that the means of production will remain in the hands of white people, and that you'll be cozying up with them, and that you're not really going to say, comrades, the time now is to share equitably the resources of the country.
Let's get it clear. Mr. Philia Nangolo stated that I'm a British citizen. He has provided no evidence whatsoever that I was, as he claimed, a British citizen. His intention by putting his name there was for me to take him to court and sue him for defamation. I will not do that. If somebody is already lying on the ground desperate, I will not be kicking them. I've never betrayed the loyalty of the liberation struggle, neither have I intention to do so, and have always been a loyal Namibia from inception. Never acquired, never swore allegiance to any other than Namibia. Never. Notwithstanding having been in the United Kingdom for 33 years, I was merely there as a permanent resident while I was studying and then sharpening my qualifications. I've got 11 qualifications, and that's what took me long to get down in that regard. When independence came, we all had freedom to leave Namibia and to come back. Article 21 guarantees that. And we cannot question somebody because they decided to live in the United Kingdom for that period of time. One thing Namibians need to understand is this, that if you read books in the 1980s, it's often said that the policies of the leader of that country is what will become the policies of the country itself. What vision I have for Namibia is a vision that we have never experienced before. We've got one single thing about land, and I can guarantee the Namibian people there will be a change between the feudal system of land ownership and the capitalist commercial system of land ownership. You can't have people living in a feudal system relying no longer on bartering, but at the same time, and I'm giving you a hint, and at the same time have to live on a capitalist means of existence. These two systems can't coexist. And also, we've had so many land policies to the extent that those who need land are not part of those policies. And when I was in Varambat in the south there, I found somebody from the northern regions, I'm not saying which region, who has been resettled there. IPC will make absolutely a priority to make sure that those people that have lost land will be their priority to be given land when the government acquires it. And we will have a policy of you use it or you lose it. Land belongs to the state. Even if it's in private hands, you have it in order to benefit the people, especially on agriculture. But if we have got land that is occupied by people and the people of Namibia are not benefiting anything else, we ourselves as leaders would have betrayed the cause of the struggle. It was about land. The policies that we are going to be instituting will shock some Namibians, but will betray no one, and everyone will be treated equitably so that we can live in a country that recognizes our diversity of origin and economic disparity as well, and inequality, to make sure we gradually move towards a situation where all Namibians are treated equal before the law and they benefit economically and socially from government principles. All we need to do is to appropriately legislate to make sure that those Namibians that hasn't got access to land get access to land, but when they do so productively so that it is in the interest of the whole nation. We also need to go away from these extractive policies of minerals to make sure that there's value addition, and we diversify our economy to make sure we concentrate on export industries to effect our trade balance. So our policies will be able gearing towards solving the needs of the people. It's in the best interest of the people. I cannot suddenly stand here and say that I'll be working for anybody else other than Namibian people. Why should I sacrifice? And there's a lot of him saying, oh, he's under the control of this and the control of this. Yet, the people that are stating so are not coming up with any concrete evidence. Where is he getting the money from? We've got financial institutions in this country that are controlling all of that. So our policies will be purely for the interests of the Namibian people, unlike the policies of the government that we are now having that is in the interest of a few people, and many of them interest of others. The brown envelopes of deals that has been going on has destroyed our economic policies.
I hear you. So you just spoke to something that I was about to get into now, Doc, and that is the issue of speculation about where the party is getting its resources from. I think it was on the 3rd of February, if I remember correctly, that this long convoy of white bakkies descended on Windhoek. I was at the coast, and my phone was blowing up. You know, where is IPC getting money? Because of course people come to us as journalists, they think that we would know more, but we don't know. I do not know where your party got cars from. My business, none of my business. But those are legitimate questions. Where did the party get 100 cars from? Who is funding this? Because because IPC hasn't been coming forth, and when it happens, when there's a void, people tend to fill this void with their own speculations, and sometimes that speculation is damaging.
How many cars did you count?
No, I didn't count. I wasn't there, but we are told.
Has anybody evidently counted 101 cars?
Yeah, that is a number that has been thrown there. But
exactly.
But be that as
one
it may,
journalist.
It's a huge number still.
One journalist made a headline: IPC president confirms purchasing 101 cars. I never in any interview told any journalist that we purchased, look at the word I'm underlining, purchased 101 cars. Two things, 101 cars purchased. I never even told a journalist or any of our functionaries or leaders told a journalist that IPC received a donation of 101 cars. And up to now, in our assets, we don't have any 101 cars recorded in our assets. And we don't have any cars, for that matter, recorded in our assets. Now, if journalists create a myth, a mystery about this, what obligations do we have to correct their myth? When I say you just bought a new Mercedes-Benz, could you tell me where you bought it from? And you never did. Do you have an obligation to answer me? Of course not. If you create a myth, you solve it yourself. We've got an obligation to what we are doing. Now, for the benefit of the Namibian people, we never, bought cars. We never had cars donated to us. And the SWAPO party, in their election campaigns, what do? They go to all their members and everybody else, please, can you make your car available for the campaign? I, as a leader of a political party facing a campaign, I have to be forethinking to say, how are we going to manage the campaigns? So what did I do? I went around to all the companies, tourist companies that has got cars. And I said, will you be able to give us your cars at a price that we can agree, freedom of association, we can enter into a contractual relationship. It's up to you to determine the terms of that contract, and we sign the contract. And if you had told me beforehand, because most of your questions are not sent to me, because I don't like questions sent to me, yes, I would have brought the contract that I signed with that entity to say, we are going to get a number of cars from you at this rate per month, and we will be paying you this amount of money. Yeah. How we are paying it, when we are paying it, is going to be up to us to agree to. The terms of the contract is well stipulated. Now, everyone in Namibia has got a freedom to association. Everyone can enter into a contractual relationship. The reason why we did not respond to it when the various journalists and all the other people, including our opponents, went on to Itula is getting money from the Germans, etc. It was the British, the Germans, the Chinese, IUM, and all these others. If you've got the answers for that, why should we be helping you in your misery? We didn't. Yeah. And we report to the ECN according to the laws of all our assets. If you go into the IPC office, even a table, including a bottle of water, is recorded. So we've got a clear account, audited financial reports. So, unfortunately, the Namibian got carried away with what is seen to be a damaging, somebody building their agenda so that they bring the IPC in disrepute. But we are not interested in that. The truth always comes out. And whoever created that one, they are dancing on it. But IPC has got no cars. We entered into an agreement with somebody, and we have got an obligation. When you got married, it's just because you went to church to tell everybody I'm married, now stay away from me. But it's up to you to have that relationship and the terms of that relationship. And if a company enters knowing that IPC has got a potential of being the governing party next time, and take a risk, businesses are risks, and say that, okay, you'll pay me in September next year. Yeah. There you go. You will be in parliament. SWAPO gets 97 million a year from being with the number of seats in parliament. If they know that you're going to be having at least 45, 48 seats in parliament, you'll be deriving at least 40 million a year. These cars cost this much. They even went to the dealers to work out the price of one car and made up this thing of 50 million. Wow, if they've got 50 million, where did they get it from? They went to the banks, they went everywhere else. No movement of that amount of money came about. So it's all cooked up, unfortunately, by our colleagues, and there's nothing we could do. If the journalists are going around building on one story upon the other one, it's unfortunate for the Namibian. And I think journalists must follow their ethical principles of factual, objective reporting. This was one such incident.
Yeah, in that case, Doc, I remember that the launch that I spoke about, the convoy that I spoke about, happened on the 3rd of February, if I remember correctly, and then on the 4th, the president passed away. And you said, perhaps rightly at the time, that, look, we are mourning the president, let's finish mourning the president, and then we can talk about these things. After that, journalists came back to you, and the answers were not forthcoming. And like I said before, when there's this silence, and it's not just a media thing, human nature is that when there's no clarity coming forth, people tend to fill those things with what they are getting, because there's a lot of speculation, a lot of information coming through. You sift through things, and then you fill the voids. And perhaps that is where it came from, that So how many cars are they?
It's absolutely critical that journalists ethically report and objectively report. If you are going to approach a politician, politicians will tell you what you want to know, depending on the purpose of your questions. But if you create the story yourself, I've got no obligations to correct you. And if a journalist says IPC bought 101 cars, when you come to me and say, my name is Toivo Njebele, I'm a journalist from this, I would like you to answer the following questions. I will answer those questions completely factually and objectively. But if you come on a little chat we met and, hi, how are you, and things like that, people are talking about cars, how many did you buy and things like that. Oh, nothing really, we didn't buy any cars. Oh, but people say you bought cars. Oh, get away. 101. And you go and just do 101 is the answer. What kind of journalism is that? We have got an obligation to carry news to the people. And we need to make sure that the processes leading to that are absolutely ethically conducted and conducted according to the principles of journalism. But if you mess up with us and you deal with your own story to make a money from that article you are publishing, I'll let you go ahead with that. We've got 16 cars. It's as simple as that. But people have said we've got 20, 101, 51 journalists told me, etc. And we don't have the cars as our cars. We merely rented 16 cars. It's as simple as that. And anybody that built on they are getting money from the British, from the whatever, that is their own lie. But we have got a responsibility to go and correct your lie. We've got a responsibility. And I may have to agree with you that perhaps we should have addressed it earlier. But again, I might say that we've got better things to do than responding to creations of journalists at all times. We need to be responsible.
I hear you, Doc.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure talking to you. And we hope to have you more in studio as we draw closer to the elections. But it's
absolute pleasure. Thank you to your viewers too.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. That's Dr. Panduleni Itula. He's president of the Independent Patriots for Change, speaking to us on a variety of issues and his vision for Namibia. Thank you for watching.